sports cards are nothing like stocks. Now, a lot of times in the modern day approach to sports cards, there's a lot of focus on the money-making aspects of it. Fine, wonderful, no problem. When I was a kid, I followed the Beckett. I was super excited to see the value of my collection grow. The financial aspects of the hobby have been an embedded part of it for an extremely long time, and I have nothing against that. In fact, I'm trying to build a business within the sports card space. That being said, one of the things that I hear a lot in modern sports cards is related to thinking about sports cards as stocks. And this is an absolutely flawed way to look at it. Now, when you think of a stock, what is a stock? Essentially, a stock is a small piece of that company. You are buying into that company because you believe in them, or you want to support them, or you trust them, or whatever reason. You're buying into that company and you become, a shareholder. You become, a 0.0001% owner or whatever, something like this of that company. And then, if that company does well, you also do well because your money is going to support the actual business itself. It's going to support the infrastructure costs, the salary costs, the development of new research and technology, or whatever it is. It's actually going to that business so that the business can do something with the money. Sports cards are nothing like that. You are not buying a piece of that player's career or something like that. That's ridiculous. And stocks, if that player doing excellent in his basketball or football or baseball career, does not mean his cards are going to go up. It has a lot of other factors that are involved. The whole market economy is involved. The supply and demand issues, what the production companies decide to do with how much oversupply they create, how many different parallels they create. All these things will have an impact on the supply and the demand of sports cards, and it has nothing to do with the quality of that player's play. Sometimes it does. Sometimes a player plays really well and boom, their values go way up. But that's not the only factor at play within sports cards. The value of a sport card is not connected to anything really. It's connected to an idea in our collective minds that we've decided to place value on something that doesn't have that inherent value. Stocks have an inherent value. They're inherently a part of that company. So I'm not saying that sports cards are valueless, not by any means. It's just that value has nothing to do with anything except for the narratives that we've collectively decided to put into our heads about the value of that card. That's what the value is. The value is more psychology than it is math. So I feel like anything, like for example, StarStock, they used to describe, the way they would describe their business model was really like, they would say they're the stock market for sports cards. And I feel like that's part of the reason they ended up failing. They had a mindset that was wrong about sports cards. I mean, they failed eventually because they were built on a model that required the stocks to continually be going up in order for them to make profit. And once the stocks stopped going up generally, they couldn't make much profit anymore. And so their business model just failed. And even the way that they would record the value of your collection that you had stored within them was based on a stock market kind of portfolio, which is really, you can't equate those two things together. And I feel like it's also been the fuel to this kind of perception of thinking about sports cards as investments, when I think there's plenty of money-making opportunities in sports cards. I mean, again, I'm trying to make a business in the sports card space, but at the same time, I don't think thinking about an individual card as an investment is the greatest way to think about it. There are going to be cards that go up long term, but it's a gamble. There's some players that are going to be less of a gamble. Tom Brady is going to be less of a gamble than any of the more recent rookie crops, because injury happens so often in football. Any of those players could fall off. Even somebody who seems amazing, even somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who's considered by many to be the best quarterback in football, he's actually quite young. And if he got injured, like badly injured today, he would only have a 4 or 5 year career to look back on. His cards would eventually tank. And any of these other young guys, you've seen what happened with Mac Jones or all these other guys. Any of these players, their cards could easily tank. So I feel like investing in a card is risky. It involves a certain level of gambling to it that creates risk that I don't feel is is the best way to go about trying to make money in the sports card space. When I think about making money in the sports card space, I'm looking more at arbitrage opportunities, really. I'm looking at the possibilities of buying large collections. I'm looking at the possibilities of finding cards that slip through the cracks, of finding cards that are underpriced for whatever reason. And looking for arbitrage opportunities. And I feel like that's the safer space for me to look into because it takes away some of the risk. Some of those cards might go down in value. Maybe I end up not making money with some of them. I completely expect that to happen sometimes. But I'm not looking at a card as something where I'm expecting it to go up in value over time. I'm looking at cards. In fact, since I've been back into cards, I got into them a little bit later than some of you guys, where I've actually been back in the card market the entire time I've been back into cards. The market has been steadily going down. I missed the boom completely. The market has steadily been going down since the moment I got back into cards. But I've been making money the whole time through because I'm approaching it not as investing in this card or that card, but as looking for arbitrage opportunities and doing what I can with that. I think of sports cards, the money-making process of sports cards in that space, not collecting. Collecting is its own thing. It's its own joy. It's one of my favorite things to do. But I put in my mindset the collecting aspect of the hobby and the money-making aspect of the hobby as two separate spaces in my brain. And for the money-making side of the hobby, I think arbitrage is a better way to approach it, is a better way to think about it, at least for me, because I feel like the investing, thinking of it as stocks angle is been part of the problem of why so many people have lost so much money. There's so many factors involved in the value of sports cards that have nothing to do with the quality of the play of that player, which makes it risky, I think, to think of sports cards in that way. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on this whole thing. There's elements of this that I know I'm not right on. I'm okay with that because I'm just thinking through this. I'm trying to learn a little bit more about the mindset of an investor, the mindset of somebody who's approaching this like they might approach stocks, because I think it's a common mindset. Maybe a little bit less over, now that the bubble has bursted and the prices have been going down, a lot of people who approached it with that way perhaps have drifted away. I think that's probably possible too. But I think even if that's the case, it's good for us to reflect on what it was that was attracting that group of people to the hobby and what it was that caused so many of them to drift away. Because I think a lot of it has to do with a misunderstanding of what sports cards is and can be, and the market forces that influence its value. It can't be thought of as stocks. And to some degree, I don't think it can really be thought of as an investment. But again, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'm open to the idea that I'm wrong about some of this. This is all just a conversation in my mind. So share away, and I will see you down in the comments. Peace.